What is up, YouTube? So today is not going to be a normal training video, but today I am going to show you what I keep in my gym bag, right? So this video may help you improve what you bring to the gym, which may in turn help you level up your training. So yeah, let's go. So first up, to get it out of the way, is the belt. All right, so SBD lever belt. I have used the Strength Shop ones before. This is probably the best one on the market now, to be honest. I've only tried 2 belts, so I can't really say that it's the best one on the market, but it's extremely durable. I've had this for maybe 2.5 years, still works perfectly. So the reason you will use a belt, use it in likes of like a squat, a bench, deadlift, use it in overhead press, in many compound movements really. It's not really just specific to powerlifting. But the reason you use it is to increase intra-abdominal pressure. So the amount of kind of pressure you can kind of store within your kind of abdominal cavity when you are performing a compound lift. So say for example with the likes of a squat with the bar position on your back, you know, you're pushing with your legs. Here is a lot of soft tissue. So if we're not bracing our core effectively, we're not going to get great force transfer between our feet all the way up to our shoulders where the bar is, and it can help you to essentially lift greater loads. If you're going to get a belt, I would 100% recommend investing in one of these. They are about €200. I get no money from any of the products I'm going to recommend here, by the way, but they are about €200. You'll have it for ages. If you are going to the gym and you're putting on one of those belts that has like the tiny front pouch here and then the big back support there, like, don't bother with those. They are doing nothing. They're not going to help you with bracing whatsoever. You need something that has like a thick front, because that's where you're going to be expanding your stomach into. So yeah, either one of these, like, you know, Strength Shop, are a decent entry level. But then again, I do tend to find that, like, even when I recommend belts to clients, they get the Strength Shop one and then they end up buying the SBD one anyway. So, like, you know, a good rule of thumb is, you know, buy nice or buy twice. So you can't really go wrong with the SBD lever belt. So yeah, that's this one out of the way. So this is my kit bag, really handy kit bag. It is a ginormous, you know, right? So this is built for athletes. I think this could be the 25-litre version. And this is what I use essentially when I'm traveling, but I also use it for all my gym stuff. Okay, so I'll go pocket by pocket. So front pouch here, I have my training logbook, right? If you do not have a training logbook, or if you're not tracking your weights in the gym, you know, you're wasting your time. You need to be tracking your weights. You need to be able to track your weights for progression, okay? So if you're going into the gym every week and you're trying to go off memory as to what you lifted the previous week, you are going to be spinning your wheels. You need to be tracking the weight you're lifting, you need to be tracking the reps, you need to be tracking the sets, okay? You need to be analytical with this stuff if you want to progress, okay? And I like to go old school with it, and I like to use the logbook versus a phone app. The reason for it being is, if I spend more time on my phone during a session, I'm more likely to get distracted and go into unhelpful apps like Instagram. So I recommend most of my clients don't use their phone during their training sessions, only use their stopwatch on their phone, use it for tunes, and use it to record their lifts, and then everything else track it in the logbook, okay? The good thing about the logbook as well is, like, before you enter the session, you write out your session and you can start to visualize the process of you lifting the weights that you're about to lift, and you can essentially through that way, you know, go into the sessions being a bit more focused. And then yeah, just tracking things with pen and paper, like, it does help level up your focus, because once you start looking at screens, like, you know, you're going to get a little bit more distracted. This helps you keep it in the session, and it will help you level up your results. Like, honestly, when I started tracking my lifts firstly, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, my training took off and it's never been the same since. So yeah, get a logbook. Like, it doesn't have to be the Advanced Barbell Systems one, big up, but you know, these costs, you can just buy a regular copybook in the shop for like fucking €2, if not less. So, you know, do it, because the amount of value you will get from a €2 logbook is astronomical. So anything in the front pouch of the bag, I have my wallet. I have a cool pair of shades for when I was doing sunbeds. Definitely not too good for the health, but look, you gotta keep up the appearances, right? Right, in this pouch here, this is where I keep the toxic knee sleeves. It doesn't matter how often you wash knee sleeves, they're gonna get stinky, right? So these are the SBD Eclipse knee sleeves. So again, bought these during lockdown of 2020. I still have them, they still work perfectly. Would 100% recommend these if you are looking to take your squatting to the next level. Essentially, the actual knee sleeve itself, it just provides a little bit more comfort around the knee. It give you a little bit more confidence dropping into the bottom of the squat, and it's gonna help essentially warm up the knee joint a little bit better. And then like, you know, I think I seen a study ages ago saying that it didn't really add much weight to the actual bar in terms of how much you're lifting. But you know, from my experience and clients' experience, and then just talking to other people in the gym, you know, their squat with and without knee sleeves, it just definitely feels different. You get more of a spring coming out of the bottom position because, you know, it's a stiff material. As that kind of winds up at the back of the knee, there is going to be some kind of elastic rebound effect. So yeah, if you are looking to level up your squats and want to take your training seriously, again, invest in a pair of knee sleeves. Again, these are SBD Eclipse ones. I don't know if they still have them, but they have different ones on their website. They're all pretty much the exact same. They're 7mm neoprene, and they are, yeah, they're about like €70. And again, had them for 2 years, worthwhile investment. All right, so we're on to the main bag next. All right, so open that bad boy up. See, kind of opens nice and flat, so easy enough to organize if you're in the gym, you know, as opposed to the big huge kind of rucksacks you may see people bring in that are like kind of awkward. This one kind of folds up nicely, so it's ideal for traveling. And again, I'm making no money off this. Built for athletes, don't know who I am. Maybe we can sort that out at the end of this video. Maybe if I tag them at the bottom, they may give me some discount codes, who knows. Okay, so in these little pouches here, so I just have carabiners. All right, so these are essentially what the things you'll see in cable machines. I just like to have my own. I had them from lockdown initially. A lot of lockdowns where I bought a lot of equipment because obviously I had to make my own home gym. But these are just really handy to bring to the gym because, like, you know, sometimes you go to a gym and the actual carabiners will be different sizes. So if you're using the dual cable stack and like one carabiner is like smaller than the other, like, you know, one side is going to be working a little bit harder, the weight's going to feel a little bit different. So this, like, having your own can kind of solve that. As well as, like, sometimes you go to gyms and they just don't have enough of these. So having your own does help. Again, these are like €10 on Amazon, something like that. Okay, so deadlift socks to make sure I don't get blood on the bar, because when you are doing a deadlift, like, naturally enough, the bar is going to be pretty close to your shins. Last thing you want is bleeding all over the barbell and, you know, leaving some of your filthy DNA on it. So make sure to have some socks for deadlifts. If you are deadlifting heavy and you're deadlifting frequently, it's just good etiquette for being in the gym. Are going to be my gym shoes. So I wear Notorious Lift. These are the Sumo Generation 2, I believe. So I don't do sumo, but, you know, I just like that extra grip. These are probably the nicest squat shoes I have worn. So I was wearing previously the Adidas Havoc wrestling boots. They were a little bit narrow in the toe box and a bit difficult to get on, not gonna lie. These are really nice because they're Velcro. You can just slip them on pretty easily. Like, the actual material itself is quite stretchy there. And the reason I use these when I'm training is because they have a nice flat sole. So when I'm like performing any kind of compound lift, for example, I want to have my feet rooted and grounded into the ground as hard as I can, okay? I think if you are using some kind of like cloud foam running shoe and you're lifting, you're not getting the most out of your training. Because like with a running shoe, the actual kind of sole of it is usually made to absorb force, right? So if you're trying to put force into the ground lifting, you're probably going to be sacrificing a little bit of stability and some degree of force transfer between your feet in the ground. So using something that's a flat sole is going to be pretty key for that force transfer. So yeah, like, I mean, if you are looking to get into powerlifting, I would say that Notorious Lifts, they are a really solid option in terms of like deadlift shoe. If you like to squat in flats, they're also a really good option. If you're just like looking for like a hybrid kind of lifting shoe, which, like, you know, you could potentially do runs in if you want to be more of a hybrid athlete. Like Metcons are pretty decent. I haven't tried them myself, but a lot of other clients have. Other shoes I don't actually have here with me. I've got Nike Romaleo 2s. I'll put like a screenshot. No, they're actually the third version. I'll put a screenshot up onto the screen there so you can see. I only really use them exclusively for bench. I don't use them for squats. Funny enough, I haven't squatted in heels in a long time. I may use them for doing like high bars or front squats, just because I get a little bit more forward knee travel and a bit more quad activation. But for the most part, I just use these for all my gym sessions. Other things we have here, so key is a good pair of lifting straps. So again, I got these years ago, and the funny thing is I actually found them when I was working on FlyFit. So when I was working on FlyFit, some person left them there for like over 2 weeks, and I just took them home. And this is like 3 years ago, right? So, and I've pulled like redonkulous weights in them. Well, redonkulous for me, and they're still holding up pretty good, right? So lifting straps, if you, again, like all this stuff here I've accumulated over time because like I've taken my lifting seriously, right? If you're kind of serious about your training, don't mind bringing all this stuff to the gym, okay? Because all this stuff serves a purpose. So the reason I use lifting straps is I use them on pulling movements Pull downs, rows, I use them on like stiff leg deadlifts, I use them on like RDLs, not on normal deadlifts because I want to ensure that I'm still maintaining good grip strength with those, but they essentially just allow you to lift a little bit more load, right? Because like for the most part, we're going to be limited by our grip strength versus our actual back strength, okay? So if we are using straps, we're going to be able to limit the actual limit muscle in those lifts a lot of the time, which is the forearms and the grip, and essentially more so train with the actual intent of training the back. And again, on something like an RDL or a stiff leg deadlift, you know, your intent there is to train your glutes or hamstrings versus your grip being the thing that's failed you. So if you are looking to get bigger and stronger, buy these, right? For years, I thought that wearing straps was cheating when really I was just limiting my own progress. So again, you can get these for like €10 on Amazon. Another essential item, if you are, you know, training in a commercial gym, bring your own collars, okay? When you're training in normal commercial gyms, you know, those little kind of, that are essentially like a grip strength thing. I don't know what the fucking name for them is. The steel collars. Steel collars, that's a good name for them. Right, so bring these, right? Because like you have your own then, and you don't have to worry about wandering around the gym to look for your own. These are also quite tight, so with the actual steel ones, quite often, you know, they're pretty worn, and like, you know, as you're kind of slamming the bar onto the ground doing deadlifts, they become loose quite quickly, the plates become more dispersed. When the weight becomes more dispersed, it becomes a little bit harder to thread the set. If you can keep the plates compact as possible, the set is going to be as hard as it was from start to finish, okay? Obviously towards the latter end of the set, it's going to be a bit more difficult. But you know, if those plates start to shift out, it's going to be a bit more difficult, especially if you are kind of in a commercial gym where you're using like a ton of blue or a ton of red plates, where you probably don't have a huge amount of space on the actual bar. If you are maxing out the size of that bar and you're using one of those shitty little collars, the plates are going to fall off, and then that just kind of disrupts your set. Like mentally going into the set, you're thinking, like, are the plates going to stay on? But you don't want that, right? Get some good clips. Again, a client actually gave these to me. Shout out to Joelle if you watch these, and she gave them to me years ago. Again, you get these on many different websites. Strength Shop is one place you can get them. So yeah, definitely recommend getting these. Gym towel, obviously, you know, probably don't need it that much in Ireland. Just make sure you're wiping down your equipment, right? Don't be a scumbag. But yeah, I have this over here because it is damn hot when I'm training. Right, next up, I have D-handles. I bring my own to the gym. Again, I got these in lockdown, so they're probably not a necessary part of a gym bag, to be honest. Like, you don't necessarily need these, but it does help if you are in a gym that does not necessarily have their own ones of these, or they have shitty ones. Some gyms just are not as well equipped as others. Again, like, these are not something that is 100% necessary. Like, if you're looking to build ultimate gym bag and have everything that's your own, like maybe these are something that you could add in. Got them for €20 on Amazon. Again, not necessity, but they certainly can help. Next up, we have wrist wraps. Okay, so these are SBD ones. Again, I got these a couple of years ago. I actually got these when I started powerlifting, so they're quite old at this stage. So they're about, what, 3 or 4 years old at this stage, yeah. And I still have them, still in great working condition. So I mainly use these on squats and bench press. So the main reason I'd use them there is to limit any wrist extension. So, like, you know, as weights get heavy, and if you're unable to maintain a neutral wrist position, the weight bearing down your hand over time on your wrist can cause elbow issues and cause kind of even wrist issues too. So having these in place does help, right? So when you are looking to do a bench press or a squat, ideally we want to have a tight fist on that bar. And keep our wrist in a neutral position, okay? That's going to limit all the stress on the kind of wrist and elbow joint. However, if we get to like a certain degree of weight and we're no longer able to maintain that position, or maybe the bar on your back has to set in a certain place where you have that amount of wrist extension, having wrist wraps in place can help just to limit that and ensure that we're keeping our wrists as stiff as possible. Similar on the bench press, we want to keep that neutral fist. Like if you think about like trying to make a fist as tight as possible, that's the kind of position you want to have. You want to have a nice tight neutral wrist. And if somebody is telling you to make a tight fist, you wouldn't like start it with your wrist cocked back, right? That would feel pretty weak, okay? So that's why you would use these. So yeah, you use them on squat, deadlift, you could do squat bench, you could use them on overhead press, and that's pretty much it. You don't need to wear them during your bicep curls, you don't need to wear them on your lateral raises, you don't need to wear them on all other movements, okay? They're pretty stiff and they should be wrapped in a way that is tight enough so that it should feel like you're getting a good level of support, okay? Because when you're wrapping them, like I see a lot of people in the gym wearing their wrist wraps throughout the entire sessions, and if you are wearing them like that, you're probably not wearing them to actually fit their intended purposes, okay? Because they're made to make that wrist joint stiff, and you're meant to have them tight to do so, okay? So when you're actually wrapping them, you want to wrap it around the actual wrist joint, wrist and hand, versus, so you can see there, that's covering the wrist joint there, okay? Versus you see people who wrap it like below the actual wrist kind of joint bone, and it's kind of almost like in this position, okay? That's not going to stop any degree of wrist extension at all. You want to have it wrapped around the actual joint to limit as much as you can, okay? So again, SBD, again, I don't know how much these cost, but highly recommend if you are looking to, again, you know, if you do suffer with like wrist extension issues in the squat or bench, I would 100% recommend them. They're probably not as necessary, in my opinion, as like knee sleeves or a belt would be if you're looking to improve your powerlifting performance, but they can help nonetheless, especially if you are pressing and squatting heavy loads. So then these interesting looking things, right? So these are daisy chains. Again, they're probably not a 100% necessary piece of gym equipment, but they can certainly help. So the reason I have these is to essentially make my own long rope. So think about when you're doing like a tricep push down, okay? And you know, a lot of gyms have like the very, very short rope, okay? And kind of what that does is kind of brings you into this like close packed position where you can't really extend the tricep too much. So usually I'll use these to make more of a long rope. So then I can get a nice kind of clear arm path when I'm performing that actual tricep extension. So I can go extend the triceps how they want to go. You know, I don't have to go into this kind of hunched over, like protracted position. I can just focus on extending the tricep while keeping my shoulder blades like essentially in a more neutral position. They can also help if you are doing like clavicle flies, or sorry, chest flies, or like some kind of like lateral raise, for example. They essentially just work as like extending the trailing arm. Other uses of them, like, you know, you could use them for like, you know, making a makeshift TRX row. There's lots of different uses for them. However, again, they're probably not a necessary piece of gym equipment for most people. But again, they don't hurt to have if you want to make your gym bag the best it can be. And they cost maybe about a tenner, again, on Amazon, very, very cheap. I got them in lockdown, so you can imagine the versatility you got from these in lockdown. I could use them for pull-ups, I could use them for TRX, use them for like inverted rows. I use them for many different things. Like I even made a hamstring curl out of these with some resistance bands. So yeah, definitely, like, you know, if you're training at home, if you have a home gym, they're a great addition. Then one of the last pieces of equipment I do have is my 1 and more wrist cuffs. So again, these are honestly, like, they're a really good piece of equipment. If you follow Josh Bridgman, you will know the man behind the actual company. Really good bodybuilder. But the reason behind using these is I perform a lot of pressing movements, right? I use a lot of movements where I'm, you know, taxing a lot of areas of my body, right? Cuffs like these, right? They do help to limit strain on non-movers within an exercise, for example, okay? So say for example you're doing a lateral raise, okay? You're doing a lateral raise, you have the dumbbell in your hand. Your delt is going to be connected up here, okay? So what your hand is doing doesn't really matter, okay? It's all about the kind of elbow position and where your elbow is in relation to your delt. And so your hand doesn't matter that much, but you have your hand, you have the dumbbell set in your hand, okay? What happens with a lot of people is they end up performing lateral raises like this, right? Moving their hand, but they're not moving their elbow and subsequently not moving their delt. This can help take a little bit of that issue out of it, as well as reducing any kind of strain on your wrist, okay? So what I would generally do is I'll set up a cable, put the kind of cable through here. The cuff is now closer to the joint, so because it's closer to the joint, it's going to be a lot more efficient for me to produce force from here, okay? Because think about it, if the weight is up here, right, if the weight is here, that's further away from here, so it's going to, I have to actually produce more force from here to move this, right? I have to produce less force if the point of application is here. But that does not necessarily mean that the exercise is worse. It actually just means I could probably lift more load, okay? Without fatiguing here and here at the same time. And similar again with the likes of like chest flies. Say for example, you see people do chest flies on table stack and they're just like going like this, right? And they're just bringing their hands together. They're not actually kind of like contracting their chest, because again, the chest, you know, it's going to connect here. So it's more so about our relative arm position coming across the body, okay? So if we have this cuff placed here, just below the forearm, again, it's taking the wrist out of the equation. So you're not going to get as much kind of bicep strain. A lot of people, when they're doing chest flies, they end up just feeding their bicep because they're having to, you know, squeeze the handle and, you know, bring the arm across there. So they're going to get a lot of bicep involved. Whereas if I had the actual cuff here, I can just focus on contracting my chest and bring the arm across the body. So there's lots of other different applications for these. Like, you know, you could use them on your lower half if you wanted. So I use them for like hamstring curls and leg extensions during lockdown. And they're just a really fantastic piece of equipment. And if you do suffer with any kind of elbow pain, wrist pain,
have some kind of limitation there. They're key. If you are doing powerlifting and, for example, you get like tendonitis during your peak, like these are also something that will still allow you to train your chest while like limiting any pain during your training. So yeah, again, I get nothing from this company, but I would definitely look them up. This is the OG wrist cuff, and you can find that on the 1MR website. So people, that is pretty much it. That's my gym bag. I hope some of the explanation and thought process behind why I have what in my gym bag has helped some of you. I'll leave all the products in the actual description, and if some of that interests you, if some of that seems like things that you think will level up your training, you can just go ahead and buy it. Again, I get nothing back from this video. I haven't contacted any of the manufacturers. These are just things that have helped me kind of improve my training over like the last few years, like things that, like, if I go to the gym out, I kind of feel like I'm missing something. So yeah, that's pretty much this video, this training video wrapped up. If you did like this video, make sure to like it. If you did try out any of the products or have any of them yourself, let me know in the comments. All right, so that's it. Make sure to like the video, make sure you have subscribed, and I'll chat to you in the next one.